Good day, class. Welcome to Building Systems Design. Today, our topic is about the excerpts from the National Building Code of the Philippines. Once again, I am your instructor. I'm Architect Seth Carlo Bielsa, and welcome to CE 113 Lecture Series. So I hope you already have downloaded your copies or meron kayong building code na available na hard copy sa inyo. So let us start our discussion with rule number 1. So in rule number 1, this is the general provisions. No, ito yung sinasabi ng building code that the building code is applicable to all discipline, no? Whether architectural, structural, civil, electrical, mechanical, sanitary, or plumbing disciplines. No? It is applicable to all buildings, structures, and habitable spaces, except for those na traditional indigenous family dwellings, no? And those projects that are covered by BP 220, no? Or yung mga socialized and low-cost housing projects. And isa pang sinasabi dito sa general provisions ng building code, no? That all buildings should be sited, no? Ibig sabihin, it is placed in a proper site, no? Proper construction site or a proper property location as determined by competent authorities, no? So yung authorities na to, madami ito, no? At safe distance from streams or bodies of water, polluted site, volcanic site, or near potential cause of fire, no? So ibig sabihin malayo sa hazard, no? Because the essence of the building code, no, is to protect both lives and properties, no? Hindi lang nung client, no, nung may-ari nung project, no, and also yung surrounding environment. So, yun yung content ng Rule 1. So, Rule 2, no? Let's discuss this very brief. Administration and enforcement. No? So, the enforcement of the building code, no, is under the Department of Public Works and Highways. No? And then, the police power rests on the building official, no? And isang sinasabi pa dito that the building official office should be separate, no? Ito, section 203, number 6. It is a separate office, distinct and separate and distinct from the office of the city or municipal engineers. So, ayun. Bakit merong ibang municipals pa rin and cities na nag-iisa yung office, no? Yung tanggapan ng dalawa? I don't know. So, nandito rin sa Rule 2, yung violations and penal provisions, no? Yung schedule of fees and fines, no? So pag hindi mo sinunod yung provisions dito sa building code, no? So pepenahan yung owner. And then nandito din yung schedule of fees ng building permit, no? So for example, no? If we're looking on, if we look at this schedule, no, for a two-story, residential structure, no, which has a total floor area of 120 square meter, the building permit fee should be only nasa 2,500 hanggang 3,500, no? But in actual, the cost blow up to 9,000, no? Up to 10,000 pesos. No? It goes above and beyond the prescribed fees. No? And then, nandito din sa Rule 2, no? Yung abatement and demolition. No? So what is abatement? Abatement is a mitigation. No? So if the property, no, meron talagang, or yung building, meron talagang potential threat, no, it poses danger to life and property, no, it should be repaired, no. Ito yung mitigation, abatement. So ano yung mga possible repair, no? So it depends kung anong hazard yung pinapakita niya or minamanifest, no? So kung ano yung hazard na yon, it depends dun sa kung paano ma-resolve yung hazard na yon, it depends on the building professional that we are going to consult, no? It will depend on his recommendation, no? Kung structural hazard yan, no? Ano yung abatement na pwedeng gawin, no? So pwedeng mag-carbon fiber or mag-epoxy. So kung fire hazard naman, no? So yung fire safety engineer, no, or the building administrator mag-allocate ng dedicated fire exit, no? And lastly, pag hindi kaya, no, hindi na kaya, beyond repair na talaga yung building, so yung masalimuot, yung last option, no, nandito sa building code din, it is the demolition, no? But as much as possible, no, building demolition should be avoided, no? Lalo na sa mga old structures, no? Kasi these old structures are covered by RA 166, no, or the Heritage Act. So meron ding pang safety yung building code, no? Kasi sige, tinitignan na ng building code na paano kung yung structure 50 years old, no? And kaya pa namang i-repair, no? So merong abatement process na pwedeng gawin. Pero pag hindi na talaga kaya, ayun nga. So meron ng potential threat, no? Danger to life and property. So the building is declared to be nuisance, no? Kasi nuisance is it is also tackled dun sa civil code, no? So if it is nuisance, no? So unsafe na yung building, no? So the cure is to demolish na. So moving on to Rule 3, permits and inspection. So there are permits, no, of course, that are needed to be secured, no, para dun sa building. No? At the start, no, so we secure, before the construction, we secure building permits. No? So marami itong building permits. No? So ito yung ancillary permits. Ito yung pag sinabi nating ancillary, no, so kailangan, no, basic, no. So dapat merong architectural permit, may structural permit, may electrical permit, may mechanical permit, may sanitary and plumbing permit, no. So ito yung mga basic, no. Kasi if we're going to look at kung ang project ay two-story residential, no? So lahat naman siguro ng bahay merong kuryente ngayon. No? So gumagamit tayo ng kuryente. So kailangan natin ng electrical permit. And lahat naman din ng bahay meron sigurong toilet and bath. No? So kailangan natin ng Poso Negro. So dapat ma-secure natin yung sanitary and plumbing permit. No? So isa pang part ng building permit yung accessory permits. No? Ito naman yung mga permits, no, that is issued, no, at kailangan i-secure as needed basis, no, depending on the building typology. No? So say for example, lumaki yung project, naging complex, naging complicated. So naging mall, no? So say for example, yung mall, so kailangan mo mag-secure ngayon ng electronics permit kasi i-check, no, or baka hanapan ng fire detection and alarm system, no. So the purpose, no, ng building official kung bakit siya nag-i-issue ng building permit is of course para ma-certify na they have reviewed yung design, no, or yung building system design. They have reviewed the utilities, no, and have found out that the proposed project or the proposed building conforms to the laws, no, na we have previously discussed depending on the discipline. And lastly, no, na kailangan secure na permit is yung occupancy permit, no? So ito yung last, no, na sinesecure, no? So ibig sabihin naman pag magse-secure ka ng occupancy permit, no, na-construct naman din yung building according to plan, nasunod yung plan, nasunod yung material specification, nasunod yung spaces allocation, nasunod yung mga schedule ng mga equipment, no? And fully functional na yung building, no? Ready na siyang accept, no, ng occupants niya, and it is safe gamitin. So ayun. Now moving on to rule 4. So rule 4, ito naman yung types of construction. So according sa building code, merong 5, no? Type 1 up to type 5. So pag wood, yun yung type 1, no? Pero yung structural elements only. No? So hindi pwedeng yung buong project, no? Mula structural elements pati yung building skid niya, gawa lahat sa wood, no? So that would be type 2, pero hindi na papayagan, no? Baka hindi payagan ng Bureau of Fire, no? I-require ng matinding fire suppression system, no? Syempre, yung purpose din, no, yung sa fire code para to safeguard, no, lives and properties. So type 2, type 3 yung masonry and wood, no? So for residential, type 4 for using steel, concrete and masonry, pero all the elements, no, the resistivity is 1R, no? And yung lastly, yung pinakamatibay, type 5, no, with 4-hour fire resistivity rating, no? So ang nag-specify ng type of construction, no? Not the type of the construction, but the fire resistivity of the materials, no, ang nag-a-approve nun is yung Bureau of Fire Protection, no? Because we will discuss this in the next rule, yung fire zone. No? So yung Bureau of Fire, meron niyang mapa. So naka-zone yung property, no, kung saan man 'yon. No, kung yung barangay ba 'yon malayo sa kanila or malapit, no, kung kayang respondehan kaagad, no. So yun yung fire zone. So yung paggamit ng fire zone, no, so sila lang yung nagde-determine, no, kung saan nabibilang yung location, yung proposed project, no? And then they will recommend, sorry, not specify, I used the word specify kanina. They will recommend the type of construction, no? So if they will allow yung 1 hour or yung 4-hour fire resistivity ng material. So ibig sabihin pag ni-require ka ng 4-hour fire resistivity, no? So malayo yung location mo doon sa fire station, no? Baka matagalan yung pagresponde ng Bureau of Fire, no? So para ma-safeguard mo pa rin yung life and properties, no, doon sa project, no? So they will require that you use yung mataas na fire resistivity. So yun yung sa macro, no, yung fire zone. Paano naman yung sa interior? Well, sa interior, we can double check, no, or cross check yung requirements na yon depending on the building typology doon sa fire code, no. Pero when they review yung plano, no, so the Bureau of Fire makes some comments dun sa plan ng building, no, and of course as professionals, we should identify then yung spaces that are needed to be compartmentalized, no, yung mga required talaga na merong pool, smoke, and fireproof enclosures, no, yung mga safety corridors, no, safe egress. Ayun, no. So ang gagawin ng Bureau of Fire, no, they will review the building plan and they will also check the interior spaces, no, if those spaces conform with the requirements of the fire code. So in connection dito sa mga previous rule na ito, Rule 4, Rule 5, itong Rule 6, ito naman yung fire resistive requirements. No? So yung thickness ng material. No? So pag ni-require ka ng Bureau of Fire na 4-hour fire resistivity or nakita mo sa fire code na you need 4-hour fire resistivity rating ng material para sa safety, sa safe corridor, no, or para sa compartmentalization, you would need to check gaano ba kakapal. No? So kung masonry yun, kung CHB, so kailangan 8 inches yung kapal. So moving forward, no? Dito na, Rule 7. Ito naman yung rule that we are using, no, to check yung classification and requirements nung sa proposed project depending on the use, no, or occupancy, or as we call it, yung depending on the building typology. No. So sabi section 701, kina-classify yung occupancy, no, ano bang use ng building. No, so naka-group yan A to J, no, and then further subdivided, may A1, A2, B, B1, C, C1, C2. So ayun. And then pag browse nyo, meron pa dito yung table, no, may principal, accessory, conditional, and yung zoning classification. No? So, paano ba gamitin itong table na ito? No? Itong last column, yung zoning classification, no? So ito yung in conformity doon sa zoning map, no, na ginagawa ng LGU, no, ng local government unit. No? So may mapa 'yon sa zoning map. So kung yung isang project ay residential in nature, so dapat nasa zone siya ng residential. No? So kung commercial yung project, no, yung use ng project, so dapat nasa commercial zone siya. No? At ganoon din kung industrial yung project, no, or paggawaan ng sasakyan, so dapat yung zoning ng project nasa industrial estate na zone. And then, punta tayo dito, no, sa second column, yung nakalagay, principal. No? So, ito yung mga types, no, ng occupancy, or types ng buildings, types ng project, na allowed mag-construct within that zoning. No? So, say for example, sa residential zone R1, no? So, indigenous family dwelling na single detached. No? Pwede kang magtayo doon, yun yung principal use niya. Or pwede kang magtayo ng churches, no? Or similar places of worship, no? So, yung primary use doon sa lot, no, nung building is nagko-conform dito sa description dito. Kumbaga, yung project, ano ba talaga yung primary use niya? No? Para saan ba gagamitin yung project? So, ito naman yung susunod na column, accessory. No? So, ano tong accessory? Kadugtong nung principal or yung primary use. No? So, ano yung accessory? Kumbaga, katulong sa primary, katulong ng mga spaces. So, for example, single detached unit, no, na bahay. So, sa accessory, pwede ka daw mag-construct ng parking garage para doon. No? Or pwede kang magtayo ng sari-sari store doon sa loob ng bahay mo. No? Pero maliit lang. No? Merong certain floor area requirement lang dito na hindi ka mag-i-exceed doon. Or pwede kang magtayo ng sarili mong home office. No? Kasi ang primary use naman ng bahay na tinayo mo is para tirahan mo, hindi naman para maging opisina mo. Diba? So yun yung accessory. And then lastly, no, yung third column dito, ito yung conditional use. No? So conditional use, papayagan mag-construct ng accessory building, no, doon sa zone na yon, provided na na-meet niya yung requirements, no, yung primary use and yung requirements na nakalagay dito, yung mga provisions dito. So, ganun siya basahin. So, marami yan. It depends on the building typology. No? Hindi na natin i-discuss yung A to J. No? So, punta tayo dito sa section 708. Section 708, Teka, madami to. So also Rule 7, dito dinidiscuss yung firewalls and abutments, no? O yung pagsagad sa property. Nandito rin yung building height limit, no? Andito rin yung parking space requirement depending on the use, no, or occupancy of the building, no? So ayun, nakita ko na section 708. So minimum requirements for group A dwellings. So ito applicable for residential, no? So ito pwede mo daw sundin, no, as minimum requirement. Nakalagay dito, so say for example, foundation, footing, ano ba yung purpose nitong section 708, no? Kasi paano kung yung isang project, no, o yung isang client gusto niya magtayo ng bahay niya para sa kanya lang, no, sa probinsya. And then mailap, no, mahirap makahanap ng mga building professionals, no? So pinapayagan ng law, no, na makapagtayo sila provided they meet, no, issuean sila ng building permit, no? Pero provided yung primary purpose ng bahay na yon, no, para lang sa kanila, no, and ma-meet itong mga minimum requirements dito, no? So kung kunyari walang structural engineer na magde-determine ng soil bearing capacity, no, magde-design ng footing, ng dimensions ng columns, no? So sabi dito, pwede siyang gumamit ng foundation, yung kapal ng footing ng concrete 10 inches, no? And yung depth niya 600 millimeters, no, below the surface of the ground. And then pwede siyang gumamit ng wooden posts or mga suportales, no? Kasi nga naman ang tinitignan ng building code pang sarili lang, no? Nasa rural area, no? Baka nasa agricultural land, nasa bundok pa yung project, no? And then mahirap magdala ng cement, ng concrete, no, ng mga materials, and then ang gagamitin lang is yung materials na readily available and malapit sa kanya. So isa doon is yung paggamit ng wood, no? So kung one story lang naman yung gagawin niya, ito yung dimension ng suportales, and then yung height, no, and yung span, no, naka-specify dito. So ayun, no? Kung two-story naman, nandito rin naka-specify, and then yung stairs, no, yung width, yung rise and run ng stairs, nandito rin. So ayun. And then also discussed in Rule 7, no, one of my personal favorite topics, ito yung guidelines for cemeteries and memorial parks. So ano sinasabi dito? Na pag magtatayo daw ng sementeryo, kailangan mag-secure ka ng mga clearances, ng mga permits from these different government agencies, no? So DENR, syempre DOH and HLURB, no? Aside from dun sa building permit na isa-secure mo, no? Yung setback nandito rin, no, for cemetery project. And then gaano ba kalalim yung hukay? Totoo ba yung 6 feet below the ground, no? Ganun ba talaga yung hukay, no? So it depends, no? Kung natural na ibabaon ka agad yung ataol, no, yung coffin, i-inter dun sa lupa, so the minimum requirement, minimum depth is 1.5 meters, no? So 5 feet. malapit na sa 6 feet. No? So ito baka na-meet dito. And kapag ka merong concrete vault naman, yung sementeryo, no? So papayagan na yung minimum depth is 1 meter. No? Provided na itong mga depth na ito, no, yung minimum, bakit ganyan yung sinet nila? Para hindi ma-reach, no? Pag nag-percolate yung mga katas-katas ng naaagnas na bangkay doon sa water table, sa aquifer. No? Kasi baka ma-pollute yung aquifer. And then ground interments, no? Kasi baka, 'di ba, merong mga ibang lugar, no, na paano pagka near the sea, no, or seashore yung sementeryo, no? So hindi binabaon sa lupa, no? Yung iba nagkakaroon ngayon ng mga puntod, no, mga nicho, yung mga panchon, no, yung tawag nila. No? So hindi binabaon, kumbaga parang compartment, no? Parang malaking cabinet na ini-store doon yung ataol. So ano pa yung sinasabi dito sa section na 708? Yung mga chapel, no? Kailangan din merong chapel, no, sa sementeryo, para mag-conduct, no, doon gagawin yung mga funerary services. So, ayun. Next, yung Rule 8, no, about light and ventilation. Tungkol saan ito? Ito yung development control ng building code, no? Katulad din siya ng guidelines dito sa Rule 7, no? Pero ito naka-focus dun sa design ng building, no, to allow natural light and ventilation, no, to enter the building, no? Para kung magbe-basement ka, hindi sobrang lalim ng basement, no, na wala kang bintana, no? And then walang fresh air na nakakapasok dun sa basement, no? Or sobrang taas naman, no, nung building, sobrang laki, and then yung kapitbahay, no, na kunyari 20-story building or 60-story building, tapos yung kapitbahay mo 2-story residential lang, no? Tapos hindi na nasinagan ng araw, no? So yun yung control, no, ng building code, no? Ito yung Rule 8. So nandito rin sa Rule 8 yung setbacks, no, depending on the type nung lot, nung property. Nandito din yung easement, no, depending on the type of the body of water. Yung percentage of site occupancy, no, kung ilang percent lang yung pwede nating tayuan sa property, no, sa area. Pwede bang kung 100 square meter yung lot, 100 square meter din yung sesementohin mo, no? So nandito yun sa Rule 8. Now, nandito rin sa Rule 8 yung design, no, yung guidelines for public structures or government buildings, no? So marami tong section, maraming provision. Itong mga provisions na to, no, ay ginagamit ng iba't ibang building professionals, no, na nagde-design doon sa building, no, sa proposed project, no, sila yung nakakagamit, no. Hindi pwedeng isa lang, no, isang tao lang din nakakaalam, no, para lang sa kanya ito i-apply, no. So yung mga building professionals involved in that project, no, they check these provisions ng National Building Code, no. So particularly sa mga spaces, no, space requirements, no, and yung ventilation. So this design ng spaces, no, hawak ito ng mga architects, no, kung paano yung tamang placing, paano yung space allocation, gaano ba kalaki yung bintana, yung floor-to-floor height, no? So, nasa Rule 8. So, isa pang content nitong Rule 8 is yung guideline on sightlines or view corridors, no? Pero if we're going to check this provision of the building code, hindi siya kasing technical, no? Puro araw-araw lang na ganyan kasi. No? Hindi siya kasing technical katulad ng pagkaka-describe sa mga other provisions dito. Ano? So, baka meron na kayong idea kung ano yung isang building, no, na nakalusot, no, because of this. Yung view corridor, no, naging hot topic ito nung 2015, 2016. So, ayun, yung Rule 8. So, yung Rule 9, tungkol naman sa sanitation, no? Pero excerpt lang. Or konti lang. Yung sanitation it is further discussed, no? Detailed doon sa sanitation code natin and sa ating plumbing code. No? Ganun din yung Rule 10, building projection over public streets, no? So it is discussed in detail sa structural code. No? So let's focus on Rule 12. Ito yung general design and construction requirements. No? So itong general design and construction requirements na ito, this should be verified, no, or cross-checked with other existing codes, no? So kailangan natin i-check din with the fire code, no? With the green building code, depending as a structural code, depending on which discipline, no, or which engineering trade, no, yung titignan natin. So for example, section 1202 for excavation, foundation, and retaining walls, no? So hinighlight dito ng building code yung civil code, no? Kasi hindi lang naman yung property, no, ng client or ng owner yung kailangan mong isipin, no? Kailangan mo rin isipin, isaalang-alang yung magiging kalagayan ng adjacent property, no? Baka mamaya nag-excavate ka, so naapektuhan yung other property, no? Nagkaroon ng settlement sa kanya. Nagmanifest yung crack dun sa structure niya, sa bahay niya, no? And then nag-away kayo ng client, nag-away sila ng client, no? So madadamay ka as a design professional, no? And then ang ruling, no, naging nuisance yung construction sa iyo sa new project, no? So para maiwasan yun, no, So we need to check itong provision na ito, no, yung design criteria, yung guideline, and we also need to check then yung provisions sa NSCP, no, pagdating sa design. No, so sabi nga dito, you need to protect yung adjacent, no, or adjoining properties. So nandito yon. Vertical openings, no? So during construction, so kailangan mong lagyan ng protection, no? Para hindi siya maging hazard. No? Nandun din sa bagong release na memo, no? Yung technical guidelines ng protection ng vertical openings, nasa memo release ng DOLE, no? Yung construction safety. So ayun, floor construction nakalagay dito kung anong type ng construction yung pwedeng gamitin. So yung roof covering nandito rin, no? Of course, we also need to check yung provisions ng NSCP. Sa drainage nandun din. So stairs, exits, and occupant loads, nakalagay kasi dito, sabi, yung stairs, pwede daw 200 yung rise, no? 200 mm yung rise, 200 mm yung run. No? Kung yun ay for residential, no? So pwede. But if that would be a fire exit stairs, no? So anong purpose ba ng stairs na yon? So fire exit. So kailangan mong i-check yung provision for fire exit under the Fire Code of the Philippines. So ayun. Building projections, no? Yung base, porches, and balconies. No? Ano yung maximum projection? And then yung towers, spires, and chimneys, yung mga vertical projections naman. No? Anong construction type and ano yung safety feature na kailangan ilagay. So, ayun. And then yung iba pang rules, no, na nandito, yung rule, succeeding rules, Rule 13 for electrical and mechanical regulations, ano yung sinasabi ng building code, no? So, i-check, no, yung mas stringent na provisions ng para sa electrical and sa mechanical, no? You need to check yung PEC, no, the Philippine Electrical Code, and kailangan din i-check yung Mechanical Code of the Philippines. So ayun, no. So may iba pang rules, no. Rule 14 hanggang 20, but medyo complicated na and hindi na siya masyadong related, no, sa mga two-story, no. So pang special construction, special projects na siya ina-apply. No, so kung merong kayong questions, no, or clarifications doon sa provisions ng building code, no, or merong malabong explanation, so we can discuss it doon sa ating synchronous class, no? Or baka it's better, no, na basahin nyo on your own pacing itong provisions ng National Building Code. No? So either way, at least makakapag-aral kayo on your own. So that would be all. Thank you for listening. See you again on our next discussion, next lecture for CE 113, Building Systems Design. Thank you.